Tikanga are more than just rules, protocols and customs. They bring clarity, they strengthen relationships and create the right conditions to focus and connect. If you're planning a wānanga, tikanga can help you get into the zone and achieve your goals. Are you ready to find out what is the right tikanga for your wānanga? Kia ora, I'm Kiri Prentice from Māori Minds. This foundational video of the Āhei series provides an overview of tikanga, ending with some wānanga prompts that will help you answer what is the right tikanga for your wānanga. Views on tikanga can vary widely from whānau, hapu, iwi and individuals, so don't let this video be your only source of information. Watch the Āhei series introductory video on what is a good wānanga, and don't forget to check out the downloadable worksheets which can be found in the video description. What's coming up? What is tikanga? What it isn't? What types of tikanga are there? What about kawa? What are the benefits of tikanga? What are some examples of tikanga? Who are the experts in tikanga? And finally, we finish with wānanga prompts. What is tikanga? Tika means straight or correct, so tikanga means the correct way of doing things. It encompasses Māori custom, protocols, values and practices, guiding alignment with a Māori understanding of the world, grounded in mātauranga Māori, Māori knowledge. Professor Tāhirini Moko describes tikanga as the practical face of mātauranga Māori. Some examples of tikanga include not sitting on the table where food is placed, starting a hui, a meeting with a karakia, a prayer, and a mihi acknowledgement, and performing a karanga, a ritual call to open a pōwhiri, a formal welcome ceremony. What it isn't. Tikanga isn't just Māori customs or social norms. It's deeply grounded in mātauranga Māori, Māori concepts and te reo Māori, the Māori language. Without understanding underlying Māori concepts, such as tapu, noa, mauri, mana and wairua, tikanga loses its meaning and purpose. Tikanga isn't simply performing a karakia as a token gesture, or a checklist of tasks that can be followed without understanding the values or intent behind them. My favourite book on tikanga is Tikanga Māori, Living by Māori Values by Tāhirini Moko. It's worth a read. You can learn more about mana, tapu, mauri and other important Māori concepts on several other Māori Minds videos, including Te Aoraranga, The Weaving Universe, a Māori philosophy framework, turning the spotlight on the hau and hauora, and an excellent resource on tikanga and key Māori concepts like mana and tapu, was published by the Law Commission, He Aka Matua o te Ture, Appendix 1 of the study paper He Pautama. That was authored by Professor Wiremu Doherty, Distinguished Professor Tāhirini Moko and Professor Tāpou Temara. What types of tikanga are there? In his paper Te Tikanga me ngā Kawa, Professor Tāpou Temara distinguishes two types of tikanga, tikanga teretere and tikanga iho matua. Tikanga iho matua is deeply connected to mātauranga Māori and ngā atua, or Māori deities or gods. It's grounded in Māori concepts, language and aronga, or a Māori worldview. Tikanga teretere is more flexible and not so rigidly tied to mātauranga Māori or tradition, or ngā atua. An example being whether or not people have to remove their shoes before entering into a wharenui, meeting house. What about kawa? Kawa, a term that also means sour, is closely related to tikanga. Now, opinions on the definition of kawa vary, just like they vary for tikanga. Some view tikanga as the expressions of kawa obligations. Tāhirini Moko said, the knowledge base is a tikanga Māori aspect and the practice is the kawa. Kawa is often seen as formal fixed protocols linked to sacred obligations from ngā atua, or gods, that do not change once they are set, and they are usually set by consensus. The verb kawa can also refer to performing ritual ceremonies, like lifting the tapu restrictions of a new wharenui, a new meeting house. The kawa of the marae includes the order of speeches, and there are two main patterns, pāeke and taututu. Pāeke is when all the speakers from the tangata whenua speak first, followed by the manuhiri speakers. Taututu is when the speakers alternate between tangata whenua and manuhiri, with the tangata whenua giving the first speech. So the key differences between Kawa and tikanga, as I was taught, is that Kawa is fixed and they're more formal protocols, and they reflect sacred obligations passed down by ngā atua, while tikanga is more flexible. So for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, tikanga was adapted to meet infection control measures. So we changed how we would greet people. Instead of doing a hongi, where we press our nose and our foreheads together, they would come up with alternative ways, whether it was bumping elbows or nodding or doing something else. However, the core obligation of Kawa didn't need to change during the COVID pandemic, like the respect for tapu, the ceremonies for lifting tapu, and the order of the speakers on the marae. Those things remained the same. You can learn more about the Kawa of the marae from Basil Keen's article Te Kawa o te Marae, published in Te Ara, an Encyclopedia of New Zealand. If you have more reading time, I would highly recommend Meihana Jerry's thesis, He Kawa Oranga, Māori Achievement in the 21st Century. What about the benefits of tikanga? 1. Clarity. Tikanga defines roles and procedures, ensuring clarity and understanding. For example, during a pōwhiri, a formal welcoming ceremony, a kuia, an elder woman, typically performs the karanga, the ritual call, and not a young boy. So knowing this, everybody can prepare, they have an understanding or an expectation around the role of the kaikaranga, the ritual caller, so that it can be fulfilled safely and effectively. Whanaungatanga. Tikanga creates the optimal conditions for relationships, whanaungatanga, by establishing whakapapa, kinship, and relationship roles from the outset, promoting trust and cooperation. Understanding our roles, whether as auntie or cousin or an acquaintance, fosters cooperation and trust. Without this, successful interactions are difficult to achieve. Safety. Tikanga ensures physical, social and spiritual safety by protecting mana and avoiding tapu violations. For example, during a tangi, those digging the grave are kept separate from those preparing food because you don't mix tapu and noa, maintaining the distinction between tapu, the sacred or restricted, and noa, the ordinary or unrestricted, safeguarding hygiene and spiritual well-being. Productivity. Tikanga helps participants align mentally and spiritually with the kaupapa, with the subject, by preparing them through rituals and ceremonies. In a traditional setting, like in a whare Wānanga, a traditional school of higher learning, students would prepare themselves with practices like taku. Those are chants or incantations. Fasting or holding stones in your mouth, or whatukura, and that was thought to help the students to focus and enter into a sacred state that was more conducive to learning, retention of information and understanding. In modern settings like an operating theatre, rituals such as hand washing or donning surgical scrubs serve not only to control infection, but also mentally prepare the surgical team. It helps them to focus and get into the zone, and this is a nice example of cognitive priming, where specific actions or cues condition the mind to focus and prepare. Similarly, engaging in tikanga can guide individuals into heightened states of awareness, sometimes even a tapu state, ensuring that every action is carried out with care, intention and reverence. So this deliberate approach ultimately supports the achievement of the desired outcome. Examples of tikanga: washing hands after visiting an urupa. The mate, dead, are tapu, and so is a wāhi tapu, a sacred site like an urupa cemetery. Washing your hands with water lifts the tapu restrictions associated with a wāhi tapu, or a sacred place or a state of being tapu, returning people to a state of noa, unrestricted or ordinary. No sitting on tables where you eat. This maintains hygiene and respect by keeping your bottom separate from where you eat. Hospital tikanga, tupāpaku, the dead or deceased body. So when somebody dies in a hospital, tikanga Māori ensures the separation of the tapu and noa. The tupāpaku, the deceased body, is tapu, and so it is transported along a route that avoids food and living people, which are noa. The hui process. Tikanga applies in the hui, meeting, process, which may follow a simple or more detailed format. First example I give is based on the hui process developed by Cameron Lacey, Tanya Huria, Lutz Beckett, Martia Giles and Suzanne Pitama in 2011. The 4 parts include an initial greeting and engagement, whanaungatanga, making a connection and building relationships, kaupapa, that's when you're attending to the main purpose of the hui or the encounter, and poroporowaki, how you conclude the encounter. Here's a more detailed hui process. Karakia. Open with an opening karakia. Mihi mihi, an acknowledgement of the people and the kaupapa of the hui. So you acknowledge the sacred, like ngā atua, the gods, the dead, who are mate. So you start with your tapu acknowledgements, and then you move to the living, like the organisers or hui participants. Whanaunga, building relationships. How you introduce yourself, share pepeha, your ancestral kind of connections to land, people and place, and how you make connections. Wānanga, that's discussing the actual kaupapa and how you engage in wānanga, those discussions or deliberations where you share ideas and understanding. Poroporowaki, so that's summing up the kaupapa. Himahi, a final acknowledgement, recognising the new connections that are made, the contributions to the wānanga, and maybe future actions. And then karakia, your closing karakia. Who are the tikanga experts? Ko mātua and kuia, our elders, are widely regarded as tikanga experts, but sometimes pakeke, adults with extensive knowledge and pukenga, skills or expertise, are also considered tikanga experts. A tikanga expert knows what tikanga is, they understand its principles and how to carry it out, they have experience and a whole lot of wisdom to guide others. Tohunga can refer to an expert or a priestly expert, while whanaungatanga encompasses the concept of expertise and specialised knowledge. So one way of understanding whanaungatanga is represented in the diagram in the worksheet provided for this video. Let's use the example of a karanga to see how tikanga expertise can be applied in the different levels. So you can know of karanga, have an awareness. Many people recognise or are familiar with the idea of a karanga as a key element of the ritual encounters involved in a pōwhiri, a formal ceremonial welcome. You can also know how to karanga, so that's procedural knowledge. So karanga experts, as well as students or tauira, know how to perform a karanga, and they can follow appropriate protocols. Then you can have knowledge about karanga. Karanga experts and some tauira, some students, know that karanga is far more than just a ritual. They understand its spiritual depth, they understand its cultural importance, the values it conveys, its contextual relevance, and the mātauranga, or the knowledge that underpins it. Experience of karanga, or experiential knowledge. Karanga experts know karanga through years of practice. They've performed karanga in various contexts, gaining a deeper understanding. Wānanga, collective knowledge. Karanga experts have gained a deep and broad understanding of karanga through their own wānanga with others. And tōhungatanga, so that wisdom or expertise. Experts of karanga, they use their wisdom developed over time to perform karanga, but also to guide others. They draw on years of lived experience and tacit knowledge. So that's the understanding gained through practice, and it's difficult to fully explain. But their wisdom combines both their mātauranga, their knowledge, and their practical experience, allowing them to sense what is needed in any situation. This deep understanding, developed through immersion in tikanga, enables them to apply karanga effectively in any context. So with these foundations, we can explore the right tikanga for your video-guided wānanga in the Ahe series. Understanding and applying tikanga thoughtfully sets the tone for a meaningful and effective wānanga. It creates an environment where everyone feels safe, valued, and empowered to engage. Now, what's the right tikanga for your wānanga? Let's get ready to wānanga. Do you want to learn more about tikanga? Well, you can check out some other videos on Māori minds. We have synergies and opportunities, how tikanga informed care is trauma informed. Be sure to watch the next video in this series. I care about the Māori Declaration of Independence. Wānanga Prompts. Here are 3 wānanga prompts to help you decide what's the right tikanga for your wānanga. Pause the video after I go through all the wānanga prompts so you can decide which one you want to do today. If you haven't already, print the downloadable worksheets. You'll find the link in the video description. Wānanga Prompt 1. Understand tikanga. What steps can your group take to ensure that you have a strong foundation in tikanga? Wānanga Prompt 2. Robust kōrero. What tikanga will your group adopt to ensure that everybody feels comfortable discussing sensitive topics and sharing honest opinions, even when they disagree? Examples: whanaungatanga. Build trust through introductions and sharing connection, or taking turns talking, or agree on a speaking order. Active listening. Focus on each speaker fully before responding. Wānanga Prompt 3. Including karakia. How will your group decide whether to include a karakia prayer while respecting the diverse cultures and beliefs of your members? Does your group feel comfortable using a traditional karakia, or would a more secular karakia be a better fit? Consider whether karakia is really required in all hui, even the informal ones. Have a great wānanga. Ka kite.